Alright, my name is Broussard, and I'm going to be showing the sensor that measures the solid property of oil pressure and converts it using electrical signals to the dashboard. The oil pressure sensor is on the engine block, and the gauge that shows the oil pressure is on the dashboard. So basically the sensor, oil pressure enters into the sensor and moves the diaphragm up and down based on pressure, and then moves a rod which goes across a resistance plate which varies resistance. So it's pretty much just a linear potentiometer. So the actual sensor itself is connected to the back of the engine block back here. I don't think I can see it from without taking apart the engine. Yeah, like I was saying, it's just a linear potentiometer. So as pressure enters into the sensor, it moves the linear potentiometer, and the resistance coming out of the sensor varies with oil pressure. And where there's a wire that runs from that. Okay, so this is the second part of the system, the gauge display on the dashboard. How the gauge display works is there's a current running through the gauge, and the needle moves based on the amount of current coming through. And the way the current is varied is through resistance from the oil pressure sensor. So the wire connecting the sensor and the gauge sends resistance from the sensor to the gauge. That resistance varies how much current is running through the gauge, and in turn that varies where the needle moves. And it's calibrated to display the right amount of pressure in the oil. So the whole system from start to finish, oil pressure moves the linear potentiometer in the sensor. The sensor varies resistance. The resistance coming from the sensor goes to the gauge, which has current running through it. As resistance changes, the current running through the gauge changes, and that varies where the needle's at. So oil pressure is converted, the solid property of oil pressure is converted to resistance, which varies the current on the display gauge. And that's how the mechanical property is converted to an electrical signal and displayed right here on the